This is the Bonus Section Podcast, episode number 58. You must turn your creative loose. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime and that somewhere inside you there's just this bigger version of yourself trying to break through, but in spite of all your self-development, you just can't seem to find the way up there? Well then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Bonus Section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you trying to live, or really learn how to live, the most fulfilling life possible. So to help you take immediate action to get moving in that sort of a direction, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com for a short period of time. Get over there and you can have a little stimulation while you sit with your favorite cup of coffee or wherever your favorite spot is and just think. Just think your way to a better life for yourself. That's all I'm trying to help you achieve here. But today I want to talk about why you must. To do that, you must turn your creative loose. I don't know, maybe I'm inspired. My actress is home from LA and we sat around watching a lot of creatives and a couple of TV shows and talked a lot about it. And I think what struck me to inspire this particular podcast is that school, although I believe education to be paramount, I'm huge on getting the type of education that helps you pursue your creative. That's what I'll tell you. All 5 of my kids, I try to find out what it is they love to do and then the education to match that to continue to extract it. I'm not one of these guys that pits a higher level of education, whatever that means to you, versus no education. But I will say this, man, do I see a lot of people come from nothing and have these wildly beautiful creatives, and what they learn to do with a computer by themselves or whether they're learning online, it's just awesome. I get the chills thinking about how the playing field has evened up because the access to information now is really only a cell phone away. You have a cell phone, you have a Google app on your phone, something like that, you can search, right? Off you go. You can search into that little white box. It's an unbelievable opportunity. Now, of course, you have to filter through a lot of what's out there that's noise, but you educate. And then perhaps that's the way that stimulates you to do something that makes some money, and then you reinvest it in yourself. One of these creative shows I was watching, there was $250,000 at stake, and the best advice that somebody gave the winner was, invest that back in yourself. I just thought that was perfect. Great advice. Great show. Very creative. Awesome culture, the whole thing. I won't get into what it was because it doesn't matter. I want to expand the concept to anybody and everybody. So the first point here is beware of first being stripped of your creative. Now, I grew up in a day and age in Boston where my family history came from just hard working. And they were in the booze business, right? That's what they did. Grandfather was a liquor salesman and owned several bars, and his sons all got into that same business, and I grew up in and around that business. But really what it was they were salesmen, they were entrepreneurs as they started their own business, and so somewhere in there, maybe that was in my DNA, but that was all appealing to me. However, my parents wanted me to quote-unquote do better. And so I went to these beautiful schools and I got an incredible formal education. And as time went on, though, I just felt like I was being homogenized. Something in me that was screaming creative was trying to be almost bred out of me. And I'm not saying by anybody in particular. It was just sort of you get into this systematic lane. And I was things creative and analytic. I was once called and referred to in high school as the Renaissance man. It was the rebirth of a lot of different things, the blending of culture in business. I mean, fabulous compliment. But I didn't really understand what that truly meant and how important it was to be fully expressed as a human being at that time. And shortly thereafter, trying to squeeze everything into this more industrialized lane, taking the right jobs, paying, about the, paying the dues to get into the right places and, be set for life. Conquer the money. And it started to become less and less and less about, was I feeling fulfilled in those roles? Was I even taking the jobs that did anything other than to get me to the next ladder on this corporate climb? And the answer was no. And at the time, I didn't know that I was just screaming for, I love business. I love it. I eat it up. I could learn about business every day. But if it doesn't allow me to be creative, then it's the worst thing in the world for me. So big business where people have their finger on my neck and tell me what to do and when to do it, and there's no creative in that. I mean, I don't mind being a part of a team if there's total creative, but the minute they all started to strip my creative, I was done. And that's my story on how I started to go back to being that entrepreneur, that desire. And I did a lot of self-learning, and I still do. I'm self-taught in a lot of ways. I learn. Now these days, your guidance can come from multiple mentors that don't even know they're mentoring you because you're reading their books, you're listening to their audios, you're watching their videos, whatever it might be, and you're putting it into your own creative order of things. And that's what I've done. So beware that you can strip yourself of your creative, or the people that love you, they're the most dangerous. You got to get a job as a X or a Y. I have to be careful what I say because some of you really want to do that thing, and that's awesome, right? But there are so many of you that are being pounded into the be safe type of world. Your creative is just taken away. Now, the next piece of this is to understand that creatives do get paid in spite of what all these industrialized doubters think. I mean, I know that I'm going to talk about my daughter because that's the reference point I have here. I can't tell you how many times people close to us, people close to them. I'm talking inner circle, sort of people that know. You want to, you want to act for a living? Oh, you can do that? Yeah, I went to school for that. You can go to school for that? It's like, what? Is there a bucket of smelling salts big enough? Have you ever watched a movie? Have you ever listened to a poem? Have you ever read a book? I mean, duh. Creative is everywhere. Have you ever eaten at a McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, a Starbucks? Have you ever used an iPhone or an Android? What do you mean? Can you make a living being a creative? You can make the argument that some of the highest paid people in the world are creatives in all different arenas. I mean, all different arenas. They're creators. They're doers. They think of things, maybe even things that are new, nothing's really new under the sun, but the order within which you put it and the materials you put together. All sorts of creatives. They're everywhere. What do you mean? Can you get paid doing that? Can you make a living doing that? You can get paid and make a living doing anything that you love. Anything. So I will say this though. So the conflict is, but I got my rent and I got my car payment, I got my bills. I know. The third point is you can still have a simple pay the bills job while you dance with your creative. I mean, how many people are out, and Hollywood's easy for me because it's very clear when you go to Hollywood or the greater Hollywood area that a lot of the waitresses, a lot of the service staff are people that are in the industry per se. They're trying to become a writer. They're trying to become an actor, actress. They're trying to become some part of whatever the makeup. I mean, all sorts of, that industry is mind-boggling. There's so many different aspects of it I'd like to mention, but I can't. So you probably might have to go get a service job. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's fabulous. If you can be of service to people in some fashion, and you can especially make extra in bonuses or tips or whatever, you can pay your bills as long as you're living humbly. And then from time to time, you get paid on a script you wrote. You get paid to be in a commercial. You get paid to do whatever it is that you do. And I'm just using that as an example, but there are a lot of different things. You can start a company on the side. And you can get paid by a couple of people in the beginning, just enough to cover the bills because you're serving them. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can do to pay the bills, presuming you live humbly, you live intelligently. So you can do both. And these service jobs aren't beneath any of us. Hey, look, if my world went topsy-turvy and I had to get into business right away, I would immediately look for a service job where I could spend the least amount of time in that service job, make the biggest impact, make the most money in exchange for that, get paid, and go home and work on my creative all night so that I could find my way out. To be a big why, but I would do both. So you can do both. Don't sit there and tell yourself you can't or you're above it. Stop your whining. Stop being cranky. The final point here is, if you want your creative to truly be your living, then be realistic in paying attention to what really sells. This is for all you creatives out there. This is for everybody that has rejected being told that they couldn't do something creatively, who then becomes creative. We have to be careful as creatives that we don't get too far upriver with our own ideas to only find ourselves on an isolated island. So for a lot of creatives, what happens, and in the show I'm thinking about in particular, there were a couple of people that almost got defensive in their creative, that it meant so much to them that it was finally that cathartic moment. It was almost like self-therapy, that they could get it out, their frustration, their sadness, their pain, their anger. They could get it out in song. And it was cool. It was emotional. But it was the ones that took all that and had a higher emotional quotient, a higher emotional intelligence about it, to be realistic about what was in front of them. Hey, look, you want to be creative for yourself and self-indulge. You can go into whatever lab it is that you get creative, whatever space it is that you get creative, and you can do something for you. But if you want to truly turn this into the way that you make your living, then you have to be realistic about audience. What does the audience want? And it doesn't compromise you being you, because the best at this stuff, you just know and you are drawn that it's authentically them, but they know you. As much as it's authentically their words and maybe stimulated by where they come from and what they do and in their paintings and their art, whatever it might be, their businesses, they certainly are self-expressions, but they know what you want. You know why? They're listening. They hear you too. They don't only hear their own voice. They hear you too. They know what you want. And so they bring you into their world, because we all want to be part of something together. People will support what they help create. People will support what they help create. So as a creative, if you're selfish about that, and it's the creative is all about you, and you say, screw the world. If they don't like what I have to say, then they don't like what I have to say. All right. How's that island? If you like the island, cool. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to be tough to make a living on an island. You need people. So if you can draw somebody into your story because they can relate, because the pain that you feel, they feel, because the way that you solve it, they never knew they could. And now they're looking up to you. And now they want to hear more of your message. Now they're leaning in. Now they're buying your message because it's valuable to them. It has valuable because they can go out and apply it to themselves, maybe help them make a living, maybe inspire them to do something similar in their own way. And that really sells. And that's really important to understand if you're creative. Be careful of getting way too far up into your own lane. Let me go back through this again. You must turn your creative loose. And here are the key points. Number one, first of all, beware. We're all creative, but we're being stripped of our creative by ourselves, and especially by people who love us, and especially by environments we're in. Two, understand that creatives do get paid in spite of the doubters. Look around you. Look around at every successful thing that you see. Okay? Those are creatives in every aspect of life. And the ones, in fact, that are getting most highly paid are the ones that believe this the deepest, no matter what anybody says. They just stopped listening long ago, and they found how to get paid. Now, you can still have a simple pay the bills job while you dance with this creative, while you evolve this. You don't have to bail out on everything else and go all in. If you do, God bless you. And you pull it off, cool story, I want to hear it. But we can be practical about this too. You don't have to jump into corporate jail if that's not where you want to be, or some structured, business where you don't want to. Some of you thrive. I have another daughter that thrives in that. Her creative is alive and well in a very structured environment. So you see what I mean? Doesn't matter. She gets paid. So the idea, though, is if you're truly, fully, and heavily weighted in something that's more entrepreneurially creative, get that pay the bills job while you dance with it. And don't think you're above it, because you're not. And plus, it's only in the service of other people, typically. The service business is loaded with those opportunities for you to get a pay the bills job, and the people that run those businesses know, and as long as you're honest with them about what's happening, you can make it work. And the last point is, if you want your creative to truly be your living, then be realistic in paying attention to what really sells. Don't make your art just for you so they end up on an island. Bring people into your story of whatever. Draw them in. Find that commonality. Help them expand their viewpoint from there, or bring them relaxation, love, whatever it is they need, because they will totally support if they feel co-creating with you. All right, let me summarize it this way. One of the most frightening realizations in life, and I mean frightening, is that too many of us are being stripped of our beautiful creative side. It's far too easy to be institutionalized by a world that pressures us into careers that guarantee we'll make a living even if we really don't like what we're doing. Sounds like breaking into jail for me. So in whatever capacity you can express and pursue your creative ideas, full-time or part-time, you must, if you intend on living a fulfilling life that is truly the identity you were born to be, you got to express it. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving in a better direction because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a short period of time up at freethinkingtools.com, freethinkingtools.com. You can download them for yourself, scribble all over them, and think. I want you to think, but I want you to open that creative. That's the key. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or find us on any of our social media channels for the bonus section. That way you won't miss out on any of the episodes. We'd also appreciate it if you would join our mission of becoming people for others and share our content with other people just like you so they get the help that they need. But remember this, I sign off the same way all the time. I look right down the barrel for all of you on the video, and you can feel my stare if you're just in audio. Nobody is coming for you. Nobody. So go get to work on a plan for your own life, and we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks.